We're gonna look at another Stoic quote today, this one from Epictetus, accept what is, and we gonna look at what he meant by that and how we can apply it to our lives today. Let's get into it. Alright, so this quote is from a letter that Epictetus wrote to his friend named Lucilius, and if you haven't heard about Epictetus, well, he was born in Greece around 55 AD and died in 135 AD. He was a former slave who ended up becoming one of the most renowned philosophers of the Stoics, alongside the likes of Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. And in fact, Marcus Aurelius actually owned a copy of Epictetus's main work, his Discourses, so that's some pretty great company to be keeping there. Now, he didn't come from an easy background. He was born a slave, and when he was around 30, he had an accident that left him with a limp. But despite these hardships, he went on to have a very successful career as a philosopher, teacher, lecturing throughout Greece and Rome to crowds of people who would come to hear him talk about Stoicism and how they could apply it to their lives. But here, in this letter, he's writing to his friend Lucius, who's probably going through some hardship in life, and he starts off the letter by saying, "You complain that things are not going well. Stop right there, right? Like, hey, ho, back up. You're not even letting me explain myself. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, man. You're going through something tough. You feel like complaining about it, but just stop right there," he says. Because what you really should be asking yourself is whether you're willing to accept what is happening. Because if you're not, then you're only hurting yourself, he says. And I think that's such a profound thing for him to say. Because in a lot of ways, that's exactly what we do every day. We resist what is. We try to make things turn out the way we want them to go, instead of accepting them the way that they actually happened. We rail like children throwing a tantrum because we didn't get the toy that we wanted for Christmas. And I think we can all relate to that. I remember in college, I used to live on this little street called 12th Avenue, which is ironic considering what we're talking about today, right? If you know, you know. And I used to always complain that the trash truck never came on the days that he was supposed to. And instead of taking the trash out the night before like I was supposed to, I would always wait till the morning of. And sure enough, every time I would go out and put the trash out, the trash truck would be driving away down the road. And I would get so frustrated watching him drive away. I'd be like, "Hey, man, I got trash out here, dude. You're supposed to be picking it up today." But the problem wasn't that he wasn't coming on the right day. The problem was that I kept putting the trash out on the wrong day, and I refused to accept what was happening. I couldn't bring myself to take the trash out the night before because I thought I would get too much sleep or I wouldn't be able to watch Netflix as much. And I kept fighting against it. But once I learned to accept what was happening, except that Tuesday was my trash day, then everything changed and it wasn't a problem anymore. He goes on to say, well, what is it that prevents you from saying not only this, but also that? And he's getting at the fact that we can use reason to justify anything. We can try to rationalize why we're doing something that we know isn't right. We can convince ourselves that something bad actually isn't that bad. But ultimately, he says, you have to examine yourself and ask whether you're willing to accept what is happening. He says that when we look closely, most of the things that upset us don't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. It's things like spilled wine or a piece of bread falling on the ground or, missing the last episode of Stranger Things while you were grocery shopping, right? He says these things are inconsequential. They don't matter, and yet we let them ruin our days. He says, even our anger and fear and desire, they're all based on opinions that we choose to believe. Even our perception of pain and pleasure. It's all determined by the stories that we tell ourselves about what's happening. So if we want to change the way we feel about something, we have to change the story that we're telling ourselves about it. If someone cuts us off in traffic, we can choose to get angry and scream at them and flip them off. Or we can choose to laugh and let it go. If our favorite restaurant runs out of our favorite food, we can get upset and complain about it. Or we can choose to see it as an opportunity to try something new. If our team loses the big game, we can mope and sulk and blame the refs. Or we can choose to celebrate the fact that we had a season to begin with. There's always multiple stories that we could be telling ourselves about what's happening. And he says that it's up to us to choose which ones we want to believe. He goes on to say, if you want to improve your life, you have to accept what is happening. Look at it for what it is. Because everything is neutral. Everything has potential to be good or bad, depending on how we choose to respond to it. He says that the obstacle is not in what happens. The obstacle is in what we tell ourselves about what happened. He says that what happens to us is not fortunate or unfortunate. It's what we make of it. It's our interpretation of it, the story that we tell ourselves about it, that makes it either positive or negative. Marcus Aurelius writes about this as well in Meditations. He says, "What you think about things that happen is more important than the things themselves." And in fact, he says that the things themselves don't actually matter at all. He says, it's all about what we choose to make it. That's why the Stoics always say that we shouldn't focus on the things that are in our control, and in our control are our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, the stories that we choose to tell ourselves about what's happening. Those are the things that are up to us. The rest of it, what he calls the dichotomy of control, those are the things that aren't up to us. They're outside of our control, like the actions of other people, the weather, the economy, politics. These things are not up to us, and yet we spend most of our time worrying about these things, complaining about them, trying to control them, trying to change them, trying to make them turn out the way that we want them to go. And in doing so, he says we only cause ourselves pain. So if we want to be happy, if we want to find peace, if we want to be at ease, we have to learn to accept what is. We have to learn to focus on the things that are up to us, our thoughts, our beliefs, our opinions, the stories that we tell ourselves about what's happening, because that's where our power lies. That's where our ability to shape our future lies. That's where our happiness lies. It's not in trying to control the uncontrollable. It's not in resisting what is. It's in accepting what is. He finishes the letter by telling his friend not to write back to him right away. He says, "When you have had time to consider what I have said, write back to me. Don't do it right now, because I don't want you to write back out of anger or irritation. I want you to write back when you've had time to think about what I told you. I want you to write back when you've had time to reflect on it, to let it sink in, to think about it some more and to accept what is happening." That's all I have for you today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful week. For Epictetus, one of the wisest voices in Stoic philosophy, this idea is central to living a peaceful, powerful life, because suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from our refusal to accept them. You will face pain. You will lose people. You will be misunderstood, rejected, and disappointed. You will encounter situations far outside your control. If you expect life to go exactly as you planned, you will suffer endlessly. But if you learn to accept what is, you become free. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. Epictetus. Most people resist what is. They complain, deny, avoid, or blame. But Stoicism teaches that resistance is a form of self-inflicted pain. When you fight reality, reality always wins, and you lose your peace. Acceptance, on the other hand, is not weakness. It's strength. It's the first act of courage. It's the inner clarity that says, "This is what life has brought me. I will not collapse. I will respond with virtue." Is to see life as it is, not how you fantasized it to be. Is to stop asking why me, and start asking what now. Is to drop the illusion of control and focus on what's truly up to you. Your thoughts, your values, your actions. Acceptance is not apathy. It doesn't mean you stop trying, growing, or healing. It means you stop wasting energy on denial and start using it for transformation.